神論が本当に出たぞ。まさか
死んだんじゃなかったのね。
孫悟空が神様に頼んでくれたのだ。そして生き返っている。
ピッコロに殺された私たちの仲間を生き返らせてほしいの。
それにピッコロに殺された大勢の罪もない人々も一緒だ。
そんなに大丈夫？
わかった。ピッコロ大魔王に殺された者たちを生き返らせる。
Hello, hardcore death clip enjoyers! So recently there's been a surge of content creators talking about the upcoming hardcore server. So I've decided to throw my hat in the ring with what might be the most controversial take yet. I do not believe the player base actually wants what will be the Blizzard created hardcore realm.
You think you do, but you don't.
Huh? Now allow me to explain. I've spent the last 4 months on Hardcore Classic, and yes, the experience has been amazing. Classic Warcraft is simply put a style of MMO that does not exist anymore, and it's chock filled of moments of nostalgia from my Hot Topic goth days. Not only is WoW Classic arguably the only MMO on the market where gaming experience starts from the moment you log into the game, but Hardcore with Cello Self-Found doubles down on this by adding enforced item scarcity and value, and amping up the risk reward. The majority of MMOs out there are built on the design that the leveling process is similar to a tutorial, and all the decisions are basically inconsequential. Because of this, people will boost, and they'll zerg through what's deemed irrelevant content as quickly as possible to play the game. But this is not the case on Hardcore Classic. In Solo Self-Found, you're always playing at a disadvantage, as your gear will always be a couple steps behind where you are. Since you're relatively weaker, you're forced to pay attention and to be immersed in the game, and your decisions have genuine weight when all your progression and possibly weeks of time invested is at stake. In Solo Self-Found, you lack any in-game systems to smooth out the investments of time lost from death. There's no Paragon levels or shared stash, and you can't mail items to a bank alt, so when you die, everything you've collected is deleted. This makes the character's life far more valuable to the player, and it adds to the impact of accomplishment through the risks taken. This game mode forces players to relearn a 16-year-old game, learning what levels certain quests are safer, learning what areas have extremely dangerous hazards and mobs, what vendors potentially sell game-changing upgrades or useful consumables. You actually want to min-max everything you can, even leveling like your professions and your secondary professions, because every stat point earned feels really worthwhile and justified when you're at a natural disadvantage, and a bad situation can really quickly rip a character that's underprepared. In a way, the rule set has forced people to play in a manner that simply put makes the game better and more satisfying. The enforced item scarcity through no auction house, no trading, and being limited to a single dungeon clear makes good gear really difficult to come by. So items have enforced scarcity, they have gameplay affecting use, as a power swing will greatly influence a hardcore character that's at a gear disadvantage in a difficult game. These two things, influenced by the popularity of the mode, make items and accomplishments feel extremely valuable to the player. I've seen players pog over an at-level green weapon or an early 10-slot bag more than someone getting their second Thunder Fury binding. On current hardcore, your hand is forced to play Solo Self-Found, because if you don't, when you reach 60, you will not be verified, and you will not have access to endgame hardcore content. Hardcore Elite has a monopoly on hardcore rating, and if you don't adhere to the rules and properly verify your run to 60, you will not be able to trade or group with other hardcore characters, leaving your only options really solo play or grouping and raiding with multi-life players, which, while I've seen that happen, to me, this kind of defeats the purpose of leveling to 60 in the first place. On live servers, you can guarantee Solo Self-Found will no longer be a thing. There is zero shot Blizzard implements the systems to enforce this. With no enforcement, nobody will do it. And without this enforced scarcity, items will once again have no value, which will greatly diminish the experience. So Our little server has been completely devoid of bots and boosters, with hardcore players not using the auction house or trading, and players being locked into a single dungeon clear per character. Selling gold and boosting, simply put, doesn't work in the current hardcore environment. With the new live server and the popularity of hardcore skyrocketing, it will quickly become as bad as Wrath and retail. And while the botters might need to rethink their strategy to function in a hardcore environment, I have faith they'll find a way. They always have. And not only will this be a hindrance to the gameplay, but both will diminish items and gold and accomplishment again on the server. One of the most feared aspects of playing on a hardcore server is losing a character to something outside of your control. At some point, either through an in-game glitch, server issues, or just a power outage, you will disconnect. And when this happens, thanks to the game's spaghetti code, your character just stops attacking and simply dies to whatever you're in combat with. Recently as well, the Bloodsail server has come under freaking DDoS attacks. Hardcore on Bloodsail has a safety net for this. If you have recorded footage of the disconnect, you just submit it to the appeals team, and one of the moderators reviews it and greenlights your run to continue. And the same process applies for grief deaths and deaths due to in-game bugs, which is pretty fortunate as no classic experience is complete without randomly falling through the world. Simply put, the community ran hardcore mode is just better than anything Blizzard could, or rather is willing to do, which is honestly disappointing because this is an opportunity for a very easy Blizzard W if they just cater to what their hardcore player base actually wants. Unfortunately, it's pretty safe to say this is going to be another addition to their long list of L's. Personally, I give these new servers like 2 months. All the hype and the streamer attention is going to cause the servers to pop off for the first couple months after launch, but by then I fully expect the majority of the dedicated hardcore players to migrate back to the community ran server, as they're going to see that what they had was actually better than what they thought they wanted. Alright, sorry if I went off on a bit of a rant here. As always, if you guys agree or disagree, please comment down below. I read all my comments and look forward to hearing from you. Alright, later gamers.